So a little bit about Ignyte real briefly before we get into the presentation. We are a premier Appian partner. We're a boutique management consulting firm focused on low-code solutions. We have built a number of pre-built solutions over the years in the healthcare space. We've also gone to market and really driven, bespoke digital transformations based on individual requirements. This is one of those cases where we saw a common opportunity here with Guidehouse, and we're able to put together a solution that made an impact around improper payments for the Affordable Care Act. I'll let these guys kind of elaborate more. Excited to be here with you all. Duke, do you want to give a little background on Guidehouse?
Sure. So Guidehouse fundamentally is an advisory firm. We both work in the public sector, state and local, as well as the commercial sector. But we do a number of different things, supporting our clients through advisory, management consulting, as well as IT consulting. And one of our goals is really just to focus on our clients developing great solutions and helping derive mission. And through the partnership with both Appian as well as Ignyte, it's been a very fruitful relationship.
Awesome. Mike, do you want to give a little bit more background on the use case here that kind of brought us together around improper payments?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is primarily in financial and risk management. And so part of that is improper payments compliance. So I'm sure a lot of you know the government spends a lot of money every year, and there's actual legislation that sort of governs how agencies have to review those programs and make sure that they're paying the right people the right amounts and nothing more. And so, as part of the Payment Integrity Information Act of 2019, CMS performed a review of their benefit programs, and one of those programs is related to the Affordable Care Act. So there's actually a subsidy, essentially, that CMS will pay on behalf of folks who obtain their health care coverage through the federal exchange. It's called an advanced premium tax credit. It's not really important, but essentially they pay part of your premium if you qualify based on things like citizenship, annual income, things like that. So they've partnered with the Guidehouse to sort of come in and help them execute this program. So we actually perform the statutorily required reviews of this program and help them determine, one, whether or not they've paid eligible folks, so only up to the right amount, and then do some reporting around that, which is also required and actually goes into HHS's annual financial statement. And so, just to sort of put a figure around this problem, I think last year it's estimated that the federal government paid $281 billion in improper payments. So you can imagine sort of the sheer magnitude of this issue and how this could be very impactful, not only for CMS, but more broadly across the federal government.
Thanks, Mike. Duke, when you guys were looking at different technologies that might be able to help you with this problem domain, why did Appian stand out to you guys? Why did you end up deciding to go down that path?
Yeah, taking a step back a little bit, as Mike kind of articulated, we were experts in the process. We're experts in the auditing and the business process and the rules behind improper payments and the regulations. But one of the things we were looking at is to help CMS develop an automated solution that had full transparency, that was able to meet some of their cultural and mission goals, such as, for example, enabling their citizens to be able to develop, in other words, be self-sufficient, be able to have an application that was scalable, that was really important. Also having the ability to have a solution that was FedRAMP certified, right? Anybody who's gone through an ATO process knows it's an arduous process, and if you can take that off the table, that's great. And then finally, looking at a vendor or solution that is a true partner to industry, and through our relationship with Appian, they have been really true partners with us. And so when we started this journey with Appian, we were in the process of building a practice around low-code, no-code. And well, we already had an established low-code, no-code practice, but we're looking to actually build out an Appian practice. And so the first person that we reached out to was Appian, and through the partnership, and said, hey, we're looking to bring in an integration partner to help us do a number of different things. And the purpose of this integration partner is for us to help build out this improper payment management system and automate some of these workflows, but also from a broader perspective, help us build this nascent practice that we're looking to stand up. But then it was very important for us to have a partner that was a good cultural fit for us as well. And so what Appian did was they came up with a short list of prospective vendors, and they said, hey, these are some of the guys that would, and some of the gals that would be good fits for you. But as good stewards of the federal government's money, we needed to make sure that we were unbiased in terms of our opinions. So what we did was we put out an RFP. And the RFP went out to a select group of firms that we saw that were, top tier integration partners of Appian. And one of the things that we put out in terms of the ethos of the RFP was that we wanted to have a firm that was culturally very similar to us, that was in line with our vision of helping us build our practice as well as enable CMS to build their practice. And thirdly was, helping us learn and grow and evolve throughout the process. And through multiple phases, Jason, we went through the RFP process and we settled with Ignyte, and we've been incredibly happy with our relationship with Ignyte. Oh,
thank you, Duke. And Kristen, you've been really driving the implementation from our team on the ground there. What are some of the highlights of the engagement and the partnership so far for you?
Yeah, so I think typically we come in and we're starting with process decomposition, and that's a big chunk of that kind of initial phase and doing some business analysis. But working with Guidehouse and CMS, they were absolute experts on the process. So we came in with an enthusiastic group of users, a pretty mature set of requirements, which then allowed us to focus on building our team up, helping build that practice up. So we put a pretty unique team together based on those kind of needs that you were talking about. So we try to make sure we're nurturing that and helping build that Appian practice. So we're starting with, embedding Guidehouse and CMS developers into our team and trying to kind of, day one, they're developing or they're at least helping in some capacity, and we're trying to use an apprenticeship model where we've got some experts from our side coming in, experts on the Appian side, and then pulling anyone who's interested on the Guidehouse side to learn Appian with us and embed them right in our team. So we've been really fortunate to have a very diverse team, super cross-functional, and it's just been very rewarding to work with that diverse team.
Excellent. I think that complementary skill sets of us already having the Appian background, you guys having the domain knowledge on the client at CMS, I think it's really worked well together. We've been able to do a lot, put together an impactful solution. Mike, could you walk through a little more in depth, a little bit of the existing process, how things are working, what are some of the pain points that were there before we brought automation and workflow to the table to help improve it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of programs in the federal government, the Affordable Care Act is actually pretty, nascent, I'll say. Healthcare.gov went live in 2013. I'm sure you're all familiar with how well that went. And so, CMS's evaluation of the program and determination that they needed to start doing the improper payments work around it really didn't happen until 2017. And so they ran a small limited pilot, and then we inherited the program in 2020. And so because it was initially a pilot, it's very immature. We actually completed the first ever review of the program just last year. So there's not a lot of technology, there's not a lot of tools. We're working with sort of a hodgepodge of solutions like Excel and Box and things like this to sort of share documents and complete our work. So it's super manual. Everything, all of the tools, all of the information that we need to sort of complete our work and complete our reviews is in disparate locations. So it's a lot of multiple open windows going back and forth, looking at things in different places. And then, just aggregating results, right? Doing the reporting. It's a very tedious exercise because, again, it's all manual, right? And you're relying on humans to enter information correctly. And of course, there's always errors. It's just an inherent part of the process. And so, I think the biggest pain point that we had was the highly manual nature of everything. And to Kristen's point, when we brought the Ignyte folks on board, we had a pretty long list of things that we hated about how we were working and some strong ideas about how to fix those things. So she's right when she said we had strong ideas about how to go forward. So.
Great, thanks for explaining. Kristen, we looked at this together at the beginning. There's some definitely differences in how to some of the other problems that we've tried to solve before in the way the data model is set up, the way the process works. Could you highlight some of the things that are maybe the unique challenges from a technical perspective and some of the key innovations that you and the team have been able to bring to help meet them?
Yeah, so the power, our kind of biggest power of this application is the scalability and kind of extendability of it. So as the other Jason Adolph mentioned this morning, I mean, one of these 3 or 4 biggest issues or hurdles that we're seeing in the federal space is just the amount of policy and the amount of change that policy goes through. So we started day one considering that restraint and kind of just considering it a limit of the product, something that we were going to consider, and put into the solution and roadmap from the beginning. So our data model is based or is built in a way that we can initialize these applications. Say if a different customer or different team at CMS or Guidehouse wants to use this application, we can kind of write a script that's going to initialize the application and set the field parameters, set the types of fields that we're looking at and auditing in these forms. And we can make a lot of those changes that maybe typically we would go and change a CDT, maybe we add a field there, but being that we know from the get-go there's going to be so many changing policies, that's kind of the reason we went this direction. So it's a kind of super nested structure that all of those fields and the data that we're capturing that's being kind of reviewed is put together. So we were able to look at that and kind of problem solve, see how we can apply this data structure and how it looks similar to a lot of other data structures to make sure this is extendable. So that's gone well so far. So we've kind of worked with the business users to solidify those fields and things like that. But going forward, if we were to kind of use this for a different use case or just a different team, it really would just be a matter of working together with some teams to figure out what are those fields, what are the types of fields, and we can kind of make that application work for a lot of different cases.
Yeah, and if I could just sort of add on to that, I think the extendability of the solution is really fantastic as well, because as part of our work, right, we have to collaborate with stakeholders across CMS quite a bit. Our direct client does not own the information, and so we have a lot of conversations about things that we think might be errors and things they disagree are errors, and so there's a lot of back and forth. And so, for example, one of our future plans or hopes anyway for being able to leverage the capabilities of Appian is to actually sort of extend the solution to some of those other partners, right? So that we can sort of eliminate some of the back and forth that's required via email or via, teleconferences and things, and have it all sort of self-contained and assign things within the system to those stakeholders and sort of, enhance that audit trail, if you will. So I think just beyond the data and the application of other use cases, I think just being able to extend it to, sort of evolve the solution and enhance the program is what's really exciting.
That's excellent. Thank you guys for sharing. We were talking about the partnership-driven approach, Duke. On this particular project, we gave some sneak peek of it, but could you elaborate a little bit more on, how Ignyte has helped you guys really develop the Appian resources on this project and what made it successful in terms of the engagement so far?
That's one of the highlights of the project, actually, and the parts that I'm most excited about. We talked a little bit about, we're building a nascent Appian practice, and part of that was, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? We looked at the certification path for our folks, and a lot of our folks were either had a technical background and were looking to get additional technical background, or some folks were looking for a career change. In this day and age, the battle for top talent and resources is paramount, right? I imagine like all of you guys are facing the same challenges, and how do I engage my staff to be more involved and learn additional skills and learn some of the hottest and most innovative skills out there, like Appian, right? And so that was the gauntlet that was thrown down to Jason and the team and said, hey, not only am I looking for a partner that can come in and integrate this incredible scalable solution built on Agile and constantly changing requirements, but focused on ultimately delivering an impactful and and financially impactful, product, but also how do I go about building my practice as well? Not only the developers that work closely with Kristen and Mike here, but also folks who are tangentially involved or just simply just curious about Appian. And as a result, we sat down with Jason and Kristen and some other folks on your team, and we laid out a training path where we said, hey, in order for us to get this certain level of certification for our folks, here are the kind of the milestones and exams and tests and online training and stuff, right? And what Kristen and her team have helped us do, and totally your time, afternoons, nights, weekends sometimes, where we're going through some of these training sessions and so going through some of these labs, and she's graciously volunteered to help us step in and answer some of the questions, help us through some of the test exams, the labs, and it's been an incredible partnership. And I feel like back in college where we're in group study, right, where we're sitting there and going through the process, and that's been tremendous for us. And so as a result, that trusted relationship and that brokering of the relationship between Guidehouse and Ignyte has just really strengthened, our bond.
Yeah, and I'll just say, the proof is in the pudding. And so, we can talk about certifications and folks working on the engagement and things, and that doesn't really sort of communicate the effectiveness of this partnership. But what I'll tell you is I do sit in on most of the daily development scrums, and while I'm not technical and my eyes usually glaze over as they're talking about things and like showing code, I'm like, oh, geez. It's been really interesting because we do have a couple of folks on the team that have gone through that certification, and I've watched them go from not really being able to contribute to those conversations to actually working on some pretty difficult bugs and tickets within our backlog. And that's been pretty incredible. So if there's ever a testament to how effective that partnership has been, I think that is really it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the people that Mike is referring to, they were not technical people at all. They were management consultants, and they just simply had an interest and a passion to do more with their careers. And it's helped us with retention, it's helped us with employee morale, and it's been incredible. And I can't thank Ignyte enough for helping us through this journey and continuing this journey.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I think, credit to Kristen and the team. I think really it's the common management consulting DNA, right? We came as a management consultant that delivers solutions on the platform with Appian. I think that allows us to really speak the common language. And when we're doing, we're actually being very effective in the agile delivery, involving you guys and the government as product owners, frequent demonstrations. I think it's really it's allowed us to, like you said, Mike, show the proof that is in the pudding on a regular and consistent basis. So it's been tremendous to work with you all. Some of the, other future opportunities. We talked a little bit about, where we might go with this particular solution for CMSs. Either Duke or Mike, I think, are there other areas of client audits and things that you think that the type of solution that we put together here for CMS could be applicable to some other business challenges that you guys are seeing in the market? And is it a pattern you see? Is this a repeatable model that we could take and really scale across the government industry?
Mike, you want to field the question first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the simplest answer I can give you is I think for any sort of compliance-related or driven program, this is a perfect application of that, right? Anytime you have to sort of make sure things have happened, check boxes, right? There's workflow built in. The dashboarding capability is fantastic because it gives you real-time insight into progress or issues. Being able to assign work out potentially in an automated way is amazing because, again, going back to sort of what we talked about, we were doing it very manually, and that's kind of annoying. But yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have any sort of compliance-driven program that you need to manage, or any sort of case management type of program or process, right? Like Appian is perfectly suited to deal with that and do it in a really streamlined, efficient, and effective way that provides great value. So that's my easy answer. So Duke, if you want to take it to the next level.
Yeah, no, I think GRC, governance, risk, and compliance is really key. That's the type of work that we're doing right now at CMS, but it extends upon any time that we need to be able to manage cases, manage workflows, take away kind of the Excel, Word, email, to X, Y, and Z person. I mean, that's a perfect use case for Appian, right? And we're seeing that, so many different times across all of our portfolio of clients. Kristen touched a little bit about the building of the modularity, the scalability, and the way I kind of think about it in my mind, it's kind of like that provisioning. It's what you think about in terms of infrastructure as code, or like being able to stand up an application really, really quickly and scale it and be able to pull pieces in and out. And that's really what Kristen and the team have done for us, is be able to build a core set of functions, features, and functionality in a modular way, and be able to, whether we wanted to provision it for another business unit within CMS, or even take it to another, a component within HHS, we simply can. Or simply, the rules engines that have been built into it, we can take it to any other potential federal cabinet agency and be able to apply that. And that's all done through that scalability that Kristen and the team have built.
Well, Kristen, we were chatting the other day, what are some of the other use cases of where even if you just focus on improper payments, right? We were looking at them for one particular use case, Affordable Care Act, federal exchanges. More of those are in payments to individuals. What are some of the other places that, we're always looking as Ignyte, for you guys that don't know this, we're always looking at what are the industry problems that we can solve, and then go and take over and over and have that credibility that we really are the best people to solve this for you. And Kristen's been working on a few other ideas, and I wanted to give her a chance to share those.
Yeah, so I think the first most obvious is just other types of tax deductions and credits. This would be super applicable, it would translate super quickly, but I think just the idea of a very heavy policy-driven, compliance-driven process would be a great use case for this. So, I mean, even we have our main solution, that's kind of the auditing application, and then we've got an entire separate application that's purely dedicated to managing and kind of editing their policies that, again, we know are going to change every year. So we've talked a little bit about grants management. There's a similar kind of use case and flow and life cycle there. I think we've talked about a lot of like resource and onboarding, where there's a lot of that initial intake and a lot of steps and data coming in at one point, but a lot of different eyes on it, maybe different phases. So I think really it could be Appian, almost all solutions, there's some kind of relatability to something else, just with the way that they do case management. But I think in particular, the policy and the just depth of that policy is what really makes this unique and kind of drove the way we built it for that extendability and scalability. So yeah, I think those would be some good places that this could grow to.
Yeah, I agree. And there's, you've all seen in the news, there's so many cases where there's pressure to get aid out quickly, whether it was the PPP loans after when COVID happened, or after a disaster. We are doing work at FEMA, right? You want to be able to go out there and support people right away. You don't want roadblocks. You want to get either the money or the resources, the support in those people's hands, but you want to have controls in place to make sure that it's used wisely. I feel like that pattern applies all over both the federal government as well as in the state and local space. So that's why I feel like the solution you guys have put together has a lot of that applicability there. Any other big areas of future opportunities that either Duke or Mike you'd want to elaborate on?
Yeah, no, and anywhere where you need to be able to stand up an application very quickly in a very thoughtful manner, but not be it kind of like a throwaway solution is definitely where Appian fits in. And so, we're continuing to push, and I'm continually amazed by, the additional features and functionality that Appian has developed and rolled out. Every single time, I ask the question, can Appian do? And the answer is always yes, Appian can do that. And it's not just a canned answer and response, but it's here, let me show you how it can be done in a very powerful way, whether it's being geospatial, whether it can be, recently we had an issue where we needed to, do transaction logs. Every single click transaction needed to be logged, right? I mean, this is, we're building an auditing app. Why not have, auditing capabilities? And it was already, out of the box, ready to go. And that was amazing to me. So, the ability to be able to have an incredibly powerful solution at an enterprise scale, hosted fully on the cloud, was tremendous for us.
Excellent.
Yeah, and sorry, if I could just add to that.
Please.
One thing that I'm pretty excited about is sort of the RPA and OCR functions that are resident within Appian, and trying to take advantage of those. So to this point, we've really focused on sort of that baseline solution. And although Appian is going to make a lot of our work more efficient, effective, and frankly a little bit more automated, there's still manual intervention that's required for a lot of this work, where I think we could leverage those capabilities to sort of, again, streamline that a bit further and frankly improve the results. Because again, humans are inherently prone to error, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you guys for sharing. We want to be available for a few minutes at least if there are questions. We'd be happy to answer about, you know, either the solution or how the, you know, the partnership-driven approach that we took to be successful.
Hi, so I'm a UX designer at USAC, and Hi, so my name is Hannah. I am a UX designer at USAC. We are a customer of Appian. And so Appian, of course, does disrupt the traditional product development process. It sounds like you've had your management consultants learn a lot about Appian, but I'm kind of curious how you all have been able to utilize your UX designers and like what accesses do they have? Are they going straight into Appian, or are they building on other platforms and share that with developers? So I'm just kind of curious how you all have been able to like synergize with this new platform.
I think you came to the right place to ask, like one of our very best UX designers in our whole practice, and she kind of really spearheads a lot of the unique flavor that is Ignyte's user experiences that we've gotten a good recognition for, is Kristen, right? So I'll kind of let her answer, and then I'll add on if there's anything else, but I think it's a perfect person to answer your question.
Yeah, sure. So I really like the UX side of things, and I think usually things that we like, we're often pretty good at. So that's where I tend to kind of aim, but in general, I think Ignyte, we try really hard to be cross-functional. So we're all trained in UX, we're all trained in Appian. We started as a management consulting firm, so we all try to play all of those roles as best we can, and just kind of use our own, not necessarily within Ignyte, but like we have a great push within Ignyte to find good resources and make sure we are kind of trained and up to date on UX just guidelines and best practices.
And one other area for us is I think it takes that consulting mindset that the UX isn't just the colors, the location, the layout, right? It's choosing what information to put on the screen, and analyzing, putting yourself in the shoes of the customer or the user and saying, all right, what information do they need right here, right now, at this step of the process to make this a better, more intuitive experience. So I think that it's the fact that we're consultants that also makes our user experience more effective, and it's just kind of second nature to us. That's how we're approaching it, anyways. I don't know, Duke or Mike, you want to add?
Yeah, maybe we'll tag team this, but when I was trying to convince the staff to take on and develop these Appian skills, the way I marketed it to them was it was model-driven development. It was human-centered design. Like, how would you want to use the application? Do you want the button on the right-hand side? What is the way in which you engage with the system and make it intuitive? And then then we kind of peeled back the layers and showed them the model-driven development approach, right? And I said, hey, if you can do a Visio diagram and you can model this Visio diagram with your business process flows, and you have a sense of like how the system should work, then you can become an Appian developer, and a very powerful Appian developer. And as a result, as Mike mentioned, we have some folks that literally had no experience whatsoever, but they were really good, people. They were really good at developing Visio diagrams and really good at, sketching things out and drawing things, on a whiteboard, and be able to connect those two pieces together and develop, with Kristen and Mike here, an incredibly powerful solution. That was, that was incredibly surprising to me, and now they're cutting the cloth, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'll say it's been interesting because Jason talked about colors and shapes and things, and Kristen will probably roll her eyes, but I'm the person who complains about that the most. I don't think there's been many scrums where I don't say, I don't like that color, or I don't like that thing there. So it's been really interesting because it's really been sort of part and parcel of our development process, right? It's been baked in from the beginning, and we do have a lot of questions about where should this button go? Should this be aligned horizontally or vertically? Should this be a drop down, right? And we're constantly thinking about how the team is working and how we can sort of incorporate that into the solution to make their lives easier, make them more efficient, make them more accurate, just improve their quality of life. So not only is just part of the development process, but we've done a lot of extensive user acceptance testing. And as I mentioned earlier about our team having strong opinions, they haven't been shy about sharing those opinions. So, and I've encouraged that, right? Because they're going to be, for the most part, the day-to-day users. And we want to make sure that we're building a solution that fits their needs, that makes their lives better, makes their jobs easier. So I've encouraged them to sort of raise those things, and then we sort of, again, incorporate that back into the development process and make sure that it gets into the next version. So it's been really awesome to see. I think it's come a long way, night and day. Like, I used to look at it and be like, oh boy, this is what we're going to use. And now I'm like, wow, I'm blown away, because it's like, that's what we get to use. So it's been really cool to see.
We have a question in the middle here.
Yes. So I'm glad you mentioned Visio, because that's our starting point. So how do you go beyond that? So basically my question is, how was your training journey? Was it challenging? Do you ask volunteers? Do you encourage with a carrot, for staff to join this training journey? And that's on the training part, right? And do these people, do the staff do they need to have strong IT background, or they are functional staff with, interest in technical applications? My area is focused on these low coding applications, RPA, Appian, etc. And my second question is on how do you divide your team into the staff gathering the requirements, developing, doing the VTO charts, and how do you bring that all together? And the users, the ultimate users, if they go to the cloud, how do you tame them to get the 80% requirements that will make this implementable?
Sure. Maybe I can answer the first question in terms of like gaining the momentum and the traction to build for lack of better words, a community of practice of practitioners, right? And then maybe I'll hand the question over to maybe Jason or Chris and talk about the team composition, ideal team composition. What we started off was just simply a community of interest. How do we bring people together with a common interest to improve their productivity? And it started off with RPA, actually. We had a community of practice with practitioners doing RPA, and that was something within Guidehouse that everybody was well versed in RPA, developing bots and improving their own personal processes and helping our clients. But how do we take that to the next level and put it on steroids, right? And that's when Appian and low code came in, and we were able to take some of the best practices around improving business processes and applying that to Appian. Now, in terms of like training, a lot of the folks that they knew a little bit about. In this day and age, you can't be a consultant and not know technology. You have to have some sort of understanding, right? But they weren't full, hardcore, full stack developers. These are people who they understood technology. They didn't understand the full SDLC lifecycle. They didn't even know what Agile was. And through that process of indoctrination of learning and doing and having hands-on labs, that was really key. You can watch a video, you can read an article, you can do something, but without that hands-on touching and feeling, it wouldn't happen. And that's when Chris and team stepped in. As we were doing these labs, people were doing it all together. So in a virtual environment, right? Everybody's on their own computers. We're all on Teams. And as we're going through the labs, everybody's clicking and going through and doing the labs all together. And sometimes we would get stumped, and and Kristen and Bryn and others would step in and say, hey, here's how you do this X, Y, and Z. And that was really key, is that not making anybody feel left behind was something that's very important, because everybody's learning at their own pace. And being able to come up and learn and matriculate and be proud of what you develop. Every single time we developed a lab, every single time we developed a proof of concept, people we celebrated that success. And then as it kind of get bigger and better, people were celebrating bigger and bigger successes. And now we have interests across the firm of like, how do I get involved? What do I need to do? When do I jump in? And that's really been key, developing that critical mass.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely helpful to kind of get that high-level picture of where you guys are going and trying to build up this practice. On a day-to-day kind of level, I think that looks, I mentioned earlier, kind of this apprenticeship model or peer programming model. So as folks are learning, we've got them in the code with another developer from that first day. So it starts where we're kind of just having them peering over our shoulders, but then we just slowly kind of give them more responsibilities, and Appian is great in that way that we can kind of teach piecewise. But we really don't have too much criteria of who makes a good Appian engineer. Ignyte has a lot of people from different backgrounds and different kind of expertise, and we think that's what kind of makes our products a little bit special. So we had enthusiastic folks who were coming and they wanted to learn Appian, and that was half the battle, and just getting them warmed up and becoming a member of our team was, I think, around that peer leadership and, like you were mentioning, just taking the time to make relationships so they feel comfortable with us too. I mean, we're a team. This is more than just like, we're trying to means to an end. Like we want to help you build and we want to help do meaningful work. So I think just that one-on-one, having that and having the availability for the other developers has been important.
Great. If there's not any other questions, we have thank you guys all for joining and sharing. We're all going to be here, rest of the day here. If you have questions, you can always look us up. We as Ignyte, we have a booth over here across the atrium, and we're always excited to chat if you've got some challenges or you're looking for some partnership. And same here, I'm sure, from the Guidehouse folks. So thanks again.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.